special guest in the house, Dr. Michael Murry.
Berberine is a yellow alkaloid. It has the blood pressure lowering effect equal to or better than some of the more popular blood pressure medications. GLP-1 is designed to be released in pulses.
The problem that these people are overweight, the problem that they're having with their blood sugar is because they're eating such highly processed foods to begin with. Processed foods are planned to get people addicted to them, and it's equal to the amount of addictions that people have to alcohol.
Metabolic disorders, things like blood sugar control, cholesterol control, and blood pressure control.
Welcome to The Other Side of Medicine, a trusted source for education, not medication, for 35 years. In every episode of The Other Side of Medicine, we deliver health information your doctor won't tell you about. My guests are the nation's leading health experts in science-based natural medicine, physicians, authors, researchers, and clinicians. We believe natural medicine should be first, drugs and surgery last, and so we promise to deliver you the next generation of health information built on three principles: common sense, science, and cooperation with nature. I am Dr. Krystosik, and tonight I am very pleased, very privileged to have a special guest in the house. It's Dr. Michael Murry, and he has been an inspiration to me. He was certainly influential in me becoming a doctor, and I first got introduced to him and his work many, many years ago. And I actually have one of his books here that has been gone through the war with me. It's fallen apart. And I've been using it for many, many years and have really been very, very pleased to have been introduced to Dr. Murry through his books. And today, having him on my podcast is truly an honor. He is regarded as one of the world's leading authorities on natural medicine. He's a graduate and faculty member in the board of regents of the Bastyr College and University, and he's also co-author of the textbook of natural medicine, which I have used over many, many years in my practice. And he's written over 30 books, 30, that's 30 books, and has really just contributed to so much of what we know about natural medicine, and has helped so many people. And he's also delved into evidence-based natural medicine, because here on The Other Side of Medicine, we're all about evidence-based natural medicine. And Dr. Murry has collected over 70,000 different medical studies that he has just perused through and gleaned all the information to share about what natural medicine can do. So if you hear somebody say that natural medicine doesn't have any science behind it, well, you better talk to Dr. Murry, and we'll learn about that tonight. So, Dr. Murry, welcome to The Other Side of Medicine. I am so honored to have you here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And what an exciting topic we have in store. I'm very passionate about natural medicine like you, and I'm always thrilled when I get a chance to talk on any aspect of it. And especially talking with someone who's equally as passionate.
Yeah, well, that's certainly true. And so we're going to be talking tonight about several topics, but one of the main topics that I really want to focus on is the natural compound called berberine and its relationship to blood sugar and weight loss and so many other things that it has to offer. Yeah. And I want to talk about it in comparison to the drug Ozempic, which has really gotten so much media coverage, and there's so much misinformation about the combination of the Ozempic and the berberine. I guess the comparison between the two is what I meant. And I really want to get your read on that and talk about what you feel berberine has its place in helping with weight loss, if it has any. So I'll just open it up to you right now with that.
Yeah, well, first of all, berberine is a yellow alkaloid found in a variety of different medicinal plants, golden seal, barberry bark, gold thread, and it's been studied for a wide range of health conditions. Initially, the research was focused on gastrointestinal health and has some very unique pharmacology there. And more recently, it's been looked at in metabolic disorders, things like blood sugar control, cholesterol control, and blood pressure control. And it has over 30 double-blind human clinical studies in these applications. And in these studies, it's showing that it has the blood sugar improving effects equal to or superior to metformin. It has the blood pressure lowering effect equal to or better than some of the more popular blood pressure medications. And it has some cholesterol lowering effects and effects on blood lipids that exceeds that of the statin drugs. If the reality is, if berberine was a drug with all these applications as well as its gastrointestinal benefits, it would probably be the biggest selling drug of all time. So
Yeah.
It's really quite an interesting compound. In regards to weight loss, in these studies, because it improves blood sugar control, it has an ability to improve appetite control and metabolism. It helps promote lean body weight and burn fat, and that leads to weight loss. If you help people control their appetite, you improve the action of insulin, and you improve metabolism, you're going to see weight loss. The weight loss effects of berberine are very modest, though, compared to what we see with Ozempic and these other GLP-1 agonists. These drugs, Ozempic and others, Wegovy and Mounjaro, what they do is they mimic a compound in our body called GLP-1. This substance is produced by cells in our gastrointestinal tract called L cells. And GLP-1 is designed to be released in pulses, and it's broken down almost as immediately as it is formed. And I think there's some concerns that I have looking at the way that these GLP-1 agonists work regarding to their long-term safety. And we really don't know what the long-term safety is going to show. We've been burned by the drug industry in the past for weight loss drugs. Nothing's been shown to be as dramatic as these drugs, but it may be coming at a price, and we don't know what that price is. Here's my concern. I believe in nature, and my concern is that if we're administering something that it has a time of action of a week of a substance that normally has a very short mechanism of action, what is that going to do to the cell long term? And we really don't know. I remember watching the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin. I don't know if you remember that movie, but he developed a little attachment on glasses so they wouldn't slide down people's noses. He became a millionaire, and life was grand. And then everybody started going cross-eyed, so everybody started suing him, and he went bankrupt. And right now we're seeing all these drug companies. Eli Lilly is getting ready to launch a new GLP-1 plus another agonist. Then that's supposed to be even a bigger drug than Ozempic. So we're gonna see more and more drug companies getting into this line of therapeutics. Now, I will say, if you're looking at in people that are grossly overweight, this may be a reasonable route. But the reality is that Ozempic and these other drugs, Wegovy and the others, they're not going to people that are grossly overweight. it's becoming a pop drug, and you have the majority of users are not massively overweight. They're 5 to 20 pounds overweight. It's being used for vanity purposes and not so much for medical purposes. And I think that's a danger as well, because when you're taking anything, you have to look at risk versus benefits. And if someone is morbidly obese and they're not able on their own to achieve effective weight loss, these drugs may have their place. But for people that are looking for an easy way out to achieve weight loss, and they're not significantly overweight, they really should think about it, because I just don't think it's going to be proven to be safe. That's my guess.
Sure. Well, let's talk about the side effects of those type of GLP-1 and drugs that are used out there so frequently, as you said. What are some of the side effects?
They're mainly GI side effects, and the biggest one is that it produces what's called gastric gastroparesis, which basically means your stomach is paralyzed. So when you eat food, it just kind of sits there, and that doesn't feel good. So it disrupts digestion quite significantly. That's one of the key things. And then there is some evidence that it may lead to more serious issues. And then the effects that it has in the way it promotes weight loss, it may lead to more muscle wasting and maybe even acceleration of loss of collagen. Like, many people get what's called the Ozempic face, because they've lost not only the fat content but also the collagen support structures. So there's a lot that we don't know about it yet. The
muscle loss is significant. I mean, it's really significant with using those medications, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be. It really depends on what a person is doing with their lifestyle and diet. And what happens a lot when people are on these drugs is they become malnourished, because food doesn't really agree with them, and they're not hungry, so they don't eat that well. And so I think if they're going to use these drugs, they have to really maximize the nutrition that they are getting. Because I think that I think there's anytime your body is transforming, if you're not supporting it, that transformation may not proceed as healthfully as it should. So we may have to be supporting these people with higher quality, more nutrient dense foods, high protein smoothies, branched chain amino acids, collagen supplements, things that will support their muscle mass. Because what we know this from any weight loss program. If our muscle is the furnace to burn fat, and a lot of times people lose that furnace when they lose weight, and so they may be losing weight, but we want that weight to be predominantly lost in muscle mass. I mean, fat loss and not muscle mass. We want to.
I've seen some research showing up to 40% loss.
Yeah. I'm very concerned about the long-term effects, and we don't know because it just hasn't been out there long enough. We don't know.
You also mentioned about these people trying. They should be eating more nutrient-dense foods. The problem that these people are overweight, the problem that they're having with their blood sugar, is because they're eating such highly processed foods to begin with. I mean, we have, a population that's addicted And there's a lot of research showing that the addictions that occur are equal to that of the addiction of alcohol. Alcohol addiction, is significant, but these processed foods are planned to get people addicted to them, and it's equal to the amount of addictions that people have to alcohol, which is about 12% of the population.
Yeah, you ask about side effects. I focused on the gastroparesis because that's what leads to a lot of the GI symptoms, I think, like nausea, vomiting, constipation, stomach pain. Other changes that have been noted include some people have allergic reactions to it, changes in vision, pancreatitis. And these are more severe side effects, and they're more rare than the GI side effects. But
I would imagine obstructions of the GI tract as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So we have the average American is consuming these refined foods, and they're not addressing any of the real root causes. They're just treating the symptoms, and people are being led to believe that that is going to be the answer for them, and they're not being told to change anything. So you're suggesting a much more reasonable approach to use these medications for the significant obese people, but they're not doing that. They're not telling people to change their eating patterns. That's a given.
Yeah, it's. I mean, for the pharma industry, the holy grail is to address symptoms without any change in diet or lifestyle, because then it's all about hooking them into the spoonful of sugar. It's.
Yeah. Speaking of sugar, that's one of the real devils that are really causing so many of these problems. We've got the average child is eating, I think it's about 32 teaspoons of sugar a day. The average adult's eating 22 teaspoons a day, and we're getting all these refined sugars, and then of course you got fructose, which is another problem, causing people to be overweight, and they're not addressing those things. The doctors are not trained. There's no specialty in medicine. There's no board certified specialty in nutrition for doctors to be able to help their patients with. It's really sad.
Yeah, and if you're talking to someone who is an expert in bariatrics, they're basically an expert in bariatric surgery, which is gastroplasty and stomach bypass. There's got to be a whole change. I know you're working on the doctor of the future. So there's got to be a whole change in the paradigm. And the paradigm that we have right now, this sort of drug like Ozempic is really, textbook. It's one where patients don't have any real responsibilities to promote health. They just have to, get this injection once a week, and they can do whatever they feel like. And
obesity is just getting way out of control. If you look back 25 years ago, it was significant, but in the last 5 or 6 years, it's 3 times more than in the last 25 years. It's accelerating at such a rapid pace.
I just did a little video for my Instagram, and I highlighted this study. This was a study that came out in 2015, and it's titled "Dietary Variety is Inversely Associated with basically obesity." And what they mean by dietary variety is that most people that are overweight, they eat a very narrow range of foods. They're eating the same foods day in and day out. And
it's 9 foods.
Yeah. And we know that ultra processed foods are a problem, but even eating the same healthy foods every day, that's not going to promote good health. And I've always had this philosophy, and you probably have it as well. I think there's probably receptors in our brain that sense the level of phytochemicals, plant-based chemicals in our diet. We know that these plant-based chemicals are associated with significant health benefits. We know that there's so many compounds in foods that can help lower appetite, can help improve insulin working, and can help improve metabolism. So I think there's this built-in sensor in us to try to get us to have more of these compounds. So, 1,000 years ago, when our brain felt the need to get more of these phytochemicals, it would just tell us to eat more. But now we're getting those messages to eat more, and people are choosing foods that have high calories but low nutrition, and as a result, we start creating a monster within, and these are the fat cells in our abdomen. That visceral fat starts secreting a lot of compounds that are designed to promote inflammation. They're designed to promote further obesity, a greater insulin-resistant type 2 diabetes, we have this epidemic of all these metabolic diseases, and it's only going to get worse unless people make changes to their diet and lifestyle.
So you mentioned metabolic syndrome and metabolic diseases. There's research showing that 90% of Americans have metabolic, disorder. And that's a pre-diabetes condition, and people with pre-diabetes and diabetes, there's a lot of complications. Could you talk about the complications of the metabolic syndrome?
Yeah, basically the metabolic syndrome is an umbrella term. It's designed to capture those people that have blood sugar problems, not quite at the diabetic level. And we see not only blood sugar problems in people with this metabolic syndrome, we also see elevations in blood cholesterol and triglyceride levels. We see high blood pressure. We see fatty liver disease. These are epidemic. And
also cancer. Is there a higher risk for cancer?
Cancer, Alzheimer's disease, all these chronic degenerative diseases that shorten our lifespan.
By the way, we have the sad part of this. We have 1 out of 10 Americans who have diabetes. I mean that's outrageous. And we have one out of 4 have pre-diabetes. So
it may be higher than that. We're seeing children now with type 2 diabetes, which didn't exist prior in kids. It was always called adult onset diabetes. It's diet and lifestyle have not been taught. We can't address things through pharmacy alone. Good medicine starts with looking at the fundamentals of health and diet, lifestyle, positive attitude, taking care of our bodies with chiropractic care and massage and manipulation, and doing all of those supplementary measures that are important to support our health. Instead, we've been taught that, hey, if something's wrong, you just take a drug, and we now know that many of these drugs, they're fool's gold. They work to suppress symptoms, but end up leading to more serious issues. And I wrote a book, What the Drug Companies Won't Tell You and Your Doctor Doesn't Know, and it highlighted all of these problems that are seen in every major class of drugs. The drug is used to treat a particular symptom, and in the process ends up accelerating the pathology, the disease process. And
if drugs were working, Dr. Murry, if they were working, we'd be getting healthier. But we've got 6 out of 10 adults who have chronic disease. It's not working. It's not working.
We in the U.S. we rank 42 in terms of life expectancy. Our health level is significantly lower than most developed countries. So, yeah, it's I've traveled extensively. We are a nation of unfit individuals, and
I just got back. Speaking of traveling, I just got back from Portugal. I was there for a little over a week, and I tell you what. First of all, just walking the streets of some of the major cities, and Lisbon was one of them. There's not a lot of obese people in these countries. They're walking all the time. They're eating simpler foods. It was quite astounding to see how much walking people do there, and that's so important, isn't it, for our well-being?
Yeah. I just was reviewing an article today. Another article. This one was, do the associations of daily steps with mortality and cardiovascular disease really stand up? And we've all heard this goal of trying to get 10,000 steps per day. Well, this was an Australian study, and what they found is that in people that walk 10,000 steps per day, if they had a sedentary lifestyle, they reduced their overall mortality rate by 20%. But if they had an active lifestyle, they got a 50% greater benefit, and they would reduce their mortality rate by 30%. That's just walking 10,000 steps a day. So, it's a good goal.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, let's dive into talking a little bit more about insulin resistance, because you know that is one of the major drivers of almost all disease. So can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So insulin resistance is really kind of a complex scenario, and I got to tell you that we have the basic explanation. I'm going to tell you what that is. Actually, I'm going to tell you what the truth is, because what we're taught and what the general assumption is that we are eating too much sugar, too much low quality carbohydrates. By that I mean sugars that quickly raise your blood sugar level, and your body starts becoming resistant to the effects of insulin. And that leads to development of abdominal obesity, and these fat cells in our abdomen, they start releasing compounds that further block the action of insulin. They release a compound called resistin. It promotes resistance to insulin. And as resistant levels rise, so too does more insulin resistance, and body weight, and we become more and more obese. But there was a study that was done back in 2004 that kind of threw everything off. What they looked at this was studies done in the U.S. They looked at obesity and pesticide residues and type 2 diabetes. And what they found was that if someone was overweight and they had very little pesticides in their body, they did not develop type 2 diabetes. Someone could be thin, but if they had a high level of pesticides in their body, they developed type 2 diabetes. So insulin resistance was closely tied to exposure to pesticides. They found that it wasn't just one pesticide. They had to lump them all together, and it was the total body burden of pesticides that determined the sensitivity of cells throughout the body to insulin. So, one of the reasons why we may see more diabetes in the United States and more obesity due to insulin resistance is the fact that we are living in a very polluted society. A lot of pesticides and herbicides used on our crops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no question that we need to get back to more sustainable, agriculture, the organic, natural bio farming. These are so important for our well-being. And when you look at a lot of the European countries, they're pretty sharp on trying to stay away from glyphosate and some of these other things that we just are being exposed to because of the fact that we're getting foods that are coming from places that there's no restriction on these compounds. So it's really sad.
And we're going to get back to Berberine, but I want to share another study that was really quite interesting. This study was done over 20 years ago, published in Nature. And what they did is they took fat rats and skinny rats, and they swiped their microbiomes. They took they inoculated the fat rats with the skinny rats microbiome, and they became skinny, and they inoculated the skinny rats with the fat rats microbiome, and they became fat. What we're learning is that the microbiome is involved in every aspect of health, and it really holds a path to helping people with metabolic diseases. And one of the interesting thing about berberine is that it is a poorly absorbed compound, and most of its health benefits are related to its effects on the microbiome. Metformin is likely the same. It's poorly absorbed, and some of its effects are related to the changes that it promotes in the microbiome. By the way, metformin was originally developed from a plant.
A lily plant. Yeah,
a goat's root. And herbalists never really used it because it was problematic with toxicity and GI disruption, and so they opted to use these berberine containing plants instead. And it turns out that berberine has a really interesting effect on the gut microbiome. It basically promotes health promoting bacteria and reduces the level of undesirable bacteria. One of the most important health promoting bacteria that it promotes is called Akkermansia muciniphila. And
which helps with weight loss.
Oh my God, this is we're starting to see it in the marketplace now, and this bacteria is given the name muciniphila because it loves mucin. Phila means love, so it has a great affinity for the gastrointestinal mucin, and it works with our cells in the gut to form that protective layer. And if we don't have that protective layer, we get what's called leaky gut, and we get a lot of inflammation, and that too leads to insulin resistance. So this bacteria has been shown to be effective, but it's been shown to be more effective as a pasteurized, heat-killed version. That's because what's happening is that the bacteria contains a protein, and when you kill it, that protein is exposed, and it is utilized in binding to some cells that line our intestinal tract that promote improved intestinal barrier function. So it's a very interesting mechanism of action, and berberine works very well in conjunction with our intestinal cells in promoting the growth of this beneficial organism. Studies have shown it to promote weight loss. This bacteria, Akkermansia muciniphila.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's again, you said earlier, if this was a drug, I mean, there are so many things that it does. It would be the bestseller
Yeah.
without a question. Talk about the benefit of berberine with cardiovascular health.
Yeah, it's very, very useful in lowering blood pressure, and it has some very good effects on cholesterol levels. Anyone taking a statin drug should be taking berberine because what statin drugs ultimately end up doing is they disrupt cholesterol metabolism in a way that is not beneficial at all, and the berberine's been shown to arrest those negative effects of statins. So it's a very good companion along with coenzyme Q10 in anyone that's taking a statin. The other cardiovascular benefits are related to the improvements in liver health function. There's a strong relationship to the health of the liver and our risk for cardiovascular disease. And one silent epidemic in America is called non-alcohol fatty liver disease. We also have a lot of people with alcohol-induced fatty liver disease. When the liver is damaged, it tries to protect itself by incorporating fat, and when it does that, then we get disturbed liver function, and our liver is the main organ of metabolism, has many vital functions, and it's just we're not healthy if our liver isn't healthy. I don't drink alcohol. There's no safe or healthy benefit of alcohol. So I don't drink alcohol. I don't recommend people drinking alcohol. And one of the reasons is that it really accentuates this problem that we have in America with fatty liver disease. And berberine can be very helpful in that. This Akkermansia muciniphila has some benefits, and there's other nutritional approaches to fatty liver disease, but the biggest one is helping people lose weight. If people are overweight,
you don't ascribe to the Mediterranean diet, to saying drinking a little bit of wine is okay. You don't ascribe to that.
nope, not at all.
Okay.
I think that was something that the literature doesn't support that. This whole idea was something that was, 60 Minutes started it with Morally Safer and talking about the French paradox, and we now know that was, flawed research. And I don't think there's any, and I've written on this and just highlighted some of the recent studies.
Where can we find some of your research on that? Because I'd be interested in looking at that myself.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a book about 30 years ago on technogenol and its benefits. So I know that there's a lot of benefits of grapeseed and pine bark as well. But
you'd have to drink about 10,000 bottles of wine to equal the amount of resveratrol that I take. So it's not a very healthy way to get it.
Okay, good.
There's been some really good research on the effects of alcohol and the impact on our health. On my website, I have an article. My website is drmurry.com.
Okay.
You can either write just drmurry.com or spell out doctor at doctormurray.com. If you do a search on alcohol on my website, you'll see an article that I wrote called "The Truth About Alcohol and Health," and I talk about where the myth started, and I explain to what the recent data shows, and it's I think
Well,
it's
we'll have to have you come back another day and talk about that specifically because I'm interested in that myself. I drink very little wine, but I know
yeah,
that I've been kind of like, I guess, fooled by a lot of the
yeah,
publicity on wine. So I'd like to hear your perspective on another day. But,
yeah,
let's continue to talk about the benefits of berberine on cardiovascular health because I know it also protects the endothelial lining of the blood vessels, which is really important to prevent, oxidation of that and
yeah.
plaquing and all that. So talk more a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it has some really good effects on mitochondrial function and energy
Ah,
production.
mhm.
So anytime you improve energy production, you're going to see improved function. There are a lot of things that improve endothelial cell functions. The flavonoids are quite beneficial in that. And flavonoids are found not only in berries, but in beans, in green leafy vegetables, and of course other fruit and chocolate, dark chocolate.
Mhm.
And the lining of our blood vessels, the endothelium, uh, if you stretched it out, it would cover about the size of a football field, and
Mhm.
our endothelial system is the source of many drug-like compounds. It's kind of like our internal medicine chest. So yes, berberine can support the health of the endothelial cells. That can lead to better blood flow, better delivery of oxygen, and taking away of waste. And as a result, it also improves blood pressure. So,
Dr. Murray, you mentioned, the beans and the grains and the fruits and the vegetables. I like to get your perspective. Again, we're kind of drifting away from berberine here, but I would like to get your perspective on the people who are saying that we should be staying away from all carbs. The keto people, the paleo people. What is your perspective on that?
I think they take their health at great peril by doing so. If we look at population-based studies with like a keto type diet, they're not associated with longevity. I think there's things that can be beneficial for short term. I do
Hmm.
think that intermittent fasting is a good principle to help people lose weight and improve their metabolism. I don't think keto is good long term, and
Yeah.
we certainly benefit from a high intake of plant foods. I've been at this a while. I'm 60. I'll be 66 years old in a few weeks. I'm in great health. I don't have any arthritis or joint pain, no physical complaints at all, no mental complaints or emotional complaints either. I feel pretty damn good. Um,
Hmm.
uh,
Well, I'm 74 and I'm still playing basketball. Well, basketball with 20-year-olds, and I beat 90% of them.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I love hearing that. Good. I have something to look forward to.
Sure,
Uh,
absolutely. And as
yeah.
a matter of
So
fact, in Portugal, I was going to go surfing, but
yeah.
the waves were breaking. They were breaking too quickly, so I didn't get to surf. But I surf, and I do the triathlons,
Yeah.
and so the whole idea of you don't have to age typically the way Americans are aging. We can age with a lot of vitality and, like you said, without any pains. I don't have any pains anywhere in my body as well. And
Yeah.
that's the way I want to go to my grave, feeling really good. And whether I die today or if I die 20 years from now, I'm enjoying the ride without,
Yeah.
having to have limitations physically.
Yeah. I think when you're younger, because you're burning more calories, that whole grains and complex carbs make a lot of sense. But I know that at my activity level, and I work out hard, I train hard, I'm active. I don't eat any. I don't eat bread. I don't eat any
Really?
starches.
Well, why do you stay away from that? I eat
I get.
grains.
Yeah,
I
well,
eat bread.
yeah, I stay away because I like to get my calories uh, from other foods. I eat
Okay, that's good.
and I find out what worked. I found out what worked for me.
Okay,
Um,
good.
so what worked for me is a higher protein diet,
Hmm.
and staying away from carbohydrate rich, a lot of grains and starches. I get my carbohydrates from green leafy vegetables, low glycemic load vegetables, and low glycemic fruits like berries.
Okay,
So
that's fair
I
enough.
have
Mhm.
berries. I have berries every day. I mix it up. I think again, variety is very important. We have to mix up
Mhm.
our diet.
Well,
Um,
the diversity, it really depends upon a diversity in our diet.
100%. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Easiest way
Yes.
to improve your microbiome is through the diet.
So where are you getting your protein sources from?
I like whey protein. I'll have a whey protein smoothie usually most days. I also mix it up and have some vegan. I have my own 3 seed protein that I use. I have one or two eggs almost every day, um, and I'll have fish. Probably a couple times a week. Um, and yeah, I don't eat much red meat. I might have. I don't eat. I haven't. I've probably only had beef, maybe 4 or 5 times in the last, 40 years,
Uh-huh.
45 years.
I
Uh,
haven't had any beef in the last 60 years. I've stayed
yeah, there have
away
been
from it.
times where it just was the right thing to do from a politeness standpoint, and it was,
Sure, of course, of course.
it was,
That's the point. I ascribe to the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah,
I in my book Carbs from Heaven and Carbs from Hell. I wrote that back in 2004, and I had put some maps of several countries. There was three particular countries in there, and I talked about the uh, people of these cultures in South America and in Okinawa, and
Mhm.
also in Greece and in the Mediterranean region. And I did that, and I had very specific details on the longevity of people living in these areas and the diet that they ate, and I had pyramids for them for each one of the cultures. And then 2010, National Geographic came out with the blue zones,
Yeah.
and my book, actually, The Carbs from Heaven and Carbs from Hell, pinpointed the blue zones 6 years before National Geographic did. So I really, think that um, we, really need to look at the cultures around the world who have longevity, and people who,
Yeah.
eat a wide variety of foods, low on the animal protein spectrum, more in the fruits and vegetables and grains. And I think it's really important for us to look at. And again, I ascribe to three principles: common sense, looking at what the people around the world have done,
Yeah.
evidence-based science, and then cooperation with nature. Those are the three principles that I try to share with people.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And in those blue zones, there's so much to include in explaining why those people live longer.
It's a lifestyle.
The social aspects are really important. Yeah, I try to also kind of break things down in simple ways to people. I think there are 4 pillars to good health, and you can't ignore any of those. Positive mental attitude, health promoting lifestyle, making sure you're eating clean and eating healthy, and then these supplementary measures that I mentioned earlier. You got to anything that can promote health. For some people, that supplementary measure may be a drug. And so, getting back to our topic, for some people, if Ozempic is part of their path to achieve health, you still have to pay attention to your attitude, your lifestyle, and your diet. If you don't, that drug's not going to give you what you're looking for, which is a healthier, longer life. And so we have to recognize that. And so it can be a supplementary measure, but it can't be the only measure. And the other things I include in that supplementary: acupuncture, body work, dietary supplements. These are things that are supplements to our basic foundations of health: diet, lifestyle, and attitude.
Yeah, and also, time to relax and deep breathe and be able to release those, tensions and frustrations that we're all exposed to every single day. That's such an important element in the people of the blue zones. They take time for prayer, for meditation, for relaxation.
For
Those
naps.
are important elements.
Yeah, they're important. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we're on the same page with all those things. And I think
let me wrap up the discussion by giving some guidelines on berberine as far as dosage. Yeah, so the therapeutic efficacy of any drug or natural product is based upon delivering an effective dose. And with all this clinical research on berberine, we've got a really good idea what is an effective dose. Typically, for lowering blood sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, or promoting weight loss, the dosage is 500 milligrams before meals, 2 to 3 times daily. Three times daily produces a little bit better results than 2 times daily. For smaller people, 2 times daily is probably enough, but for larger people, they're going to need to take 500 milligrams 3 times a day. There are some newer forms of berberine that are better absorbed. Berbevis or berberine phytosome is the one that has the best research behind it, and that dosage is 550 milligrams daily. This form has been shown to be better absorbed. And remember that we think that many of the benefits of berberine have to do with its impact on the gastrointestinal environment and on the microbiome. And time will tell.
One thing we didn't mention about is the benefit of the berberine on anxiety and depression. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Well, anytime you're improving the gut microbiome, you're going to be influencing basically every system in the body. And one of the most interesting studies with berberine was in the treatment of irritable bowel syndrome. And I know a lot of people are out there, trying to deal with this using probiotics, but the probiotics have not shown to produce that much clinical benefit in irritable bowel syndrome, whereas berberine significantly improves symptoms, particularly in people that have more of what's called IBS-D for diarrhea. Berberine was shown to be more effective than that.
Because it's antimicrobial as well, right?
Yeah, it's a very selective antimicrobial. As I mentioned, it kind of targets the less health-promoting bacteria, less desirable, less health-promoting bacteria, and it spares any antimicrobial activity against the so-called health-promoting bacteria. Very interesting, because it's been shown to be effective against many disease-causing organisms, disease-causing bacteria, yeast, protozoa, and other parasites. It really is. I said it earlier. If it was a drug, it'd probably be the biggest selling drug of all times. And I wrote an article probably about 6 years ago, and I said in 5 years berberine will be bigger than curcumin, and so I'm pretty close to that. I think COVID kind of disrupted that. Everybody started focusing on immune products, but I think we're I think Berberine's really starting to catch some awareness, and it really should be one of our most respected natural products because it works. How do we know it works?
Now, some people have gastrointestinal disturbances. What do you recommend so that people can minimize that?
Yeah, these are changes because you're making some healthy. You're going in a healthy direction. It's basically tilling the soil and making sure that you have the right type of gut bacteria. So those symptoms are generally short-lived, and ways to minimize that is to use some dietary fiber along with that. That'll help bind any toxins. A lot of times with berberine, you're killing off some of the bad guys, and those bad guys don't like that, so they start secreting compounds that aren't so healthy for us. So
you're recommending a fiber. Was there any particular fiber that works better?
I like a fiber called PGX. PGX was a fiber I developed for Natural Factors almost 20 years ago, along with Dr. Michael Lyon. And this fiber also promotes GLP-1 secretion. It has unbelievable effects in promoting weight loss. It improves insulin action. I think it's basically an enhanced form of fiber, and people can find it in granules. That's the best way to take it. PGX.
Where does it come from? Where does it come from?
It's a mixture of fibers. It comes from konjac root, alginate, and xanthan gum. But Natural Factors uses this special machine that causes these. That solubilizes and causes these fibers to coalesce to form a new matrix, and it's the most powerful prebiotic and most viscous fiber ever developed. So when you ingest it, it's able to bind about 1,000 times its weight in water. So that fills people up, makes them feel satisfied, so they eat fewer calories. And then as it passes through the GI tract, it's stimulating the release of that GLP-1. It increases the number of L cells. These are the cells that produce GLP-1. So it's just a better way to enhance GLP-1 production inherently, endogenously, versus taking a shot.
Sure. What are the recommendations for taking that fiber? How would you recommend an adult to take that?
You start out with a dosage of 2.5 grams before meals. The best results are about 10 to 15 minutes before meals, and you do that for the 3 major meals. And then eventually, after a couple of weeks, then you boost it up to 5 grams. And it's very well studied, over a dozen clinical studies, and some of the world's leading experts on the glycemic index and the glycemic response to foods have studied it, and it really is it's been a godsend for many people. I know it changed my life. I started using it when we first came out with it, and it significantly improved my health.
Well, it's really important that people understand, the reason why you start off with the 2.5, grams, because you don't want to get too much too fast, because then you'll have the die-off of the bad bacteria and you'll get a lot of gas and other things. So you want to go slowly into it to change that microbiome culture, right?
Yeah. And most people can tolerate, I can tolerate now really high doses, but when people start out, it is a good idea to work up to it. It's a lot of people don't get enough fiber, and when they start eating high fiber foods or taking a fiber supplement. It can cause gas, bloating, and indigestion. And
Now, before you leave, Dr. Murry, we're almost out of time here. Dr. Murry, could you just tell us what some of the other places we can get the GLP-1 from natural sources?
Yeah, the best source, I think, is the Berberine does increase GLP-1, no question about it. This PGX that I talked about,
and the research validates that, right? That Berberine does.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Good.
I know I've heard people say it doesn't impact GLP-1, but there's data showing that it does. So I don't know why.
What else is there that we could use?
Well, there's basically as food is passing through our GI tract, it's designed to cause a release of GLP-1. So basically, slow digesting foods, high fiber foods, help promote GLP-1 release. So yeah, high fiber diet. It begins with the diet. It really does, and we know that a high fiber diet is associated with a lower body weight and less obesity and less diabetes. So high fiber diet, and PGX is just a super fiber.
Well, Dr. Murry, this has been very enlightening. I've just learned so much myself, and I'm sure that our listening audience as well. So I want to thank you, and we'd love to have you back again.
Anytime. Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, my friend. Listen, you take care. Be well.
You too. It was fun.
Thank you so much.